All right, welcome in. Cube Show podcast, college football podcast. Usually comes to you on Sundays, and I'm going to be honest with you, it's going to be tough to get these things out on Sunday in Charlotte, doing Read and React with Roman Harper. You can get that every Monday night on the SEC Network at 6 p.m. Central. These two extra teams, man, 16 games, it was a lot. I even had a head start with two Thursday and a Friday night game, and just wasn't able to get it all done on Sunday, traveling from Lexington. We had some delays there, and then getting up here to Charlotte and trying to get everything ready for this show, my radio show, and everything that goes into it. But we've seen the film now. We're here to give it to you, and we'll do that each and every week. You guys know we're brought to you by Wickles Pickles, wickedly delicious. If you can't find them in your grocery store, ask why they don't have them. Go to wicklespickles.com, at Wickles Pickles on Instagram. Follow along, see all the things that they do with them, creative ways that they use them, and they are delicious. They are fantastic, and we appreciate them being the sponsor of the show. So many games to get to. I don't want to go too long with each one. I want to give you what I saw. Please forgive me on some of the names. I'm trying. There's a lot of different ones, and some I might just have to give you numbers on of what I saw, what I liked, and maybe what was going on. We will start last Thursday night, Murray State and Missouri. Felt pretty good about this Missouri football team. My biggest question for the Missouri football team was going to be on defense. Is that secondary going to be able to come down, play the run the way that they did last year, basically get ball carriers to the ground in the same fashion that they did a season ago? And I thought they were able to do that. I thought safeties were flying around, 13 was flying around, 15 was flying around, Marvin Burks was flying around, Drayden Norwood flying around, coming down, laying the boom on a couple of backs, running the football. You saw a corner come up and take on a wide receiver stock block on a screen and bowl right through him and be able to make a tackle up near the line of scrimmage. That physicality at the third level of the defense, I think it sets the tone. I think it did last year. And I know they have disruptive defensive linemen, good defensive linemen. They've had great linebackers. But when you get guys at the third level that are not afraid to come up and lay their body on the line and make a hit and get a ball carrier or pass catcher to the ground quickly, I think it sets the tone for everything. I did think that the defensive line was still active, still disruptive, 15 out on the edge, making a few plays here and there. I understand Murray State was overmatched, and because of the way this thing went early, game was over pretty early. Missouri could do a lot and do some different things. 30 at linebacker, sideline to sideline, making some things happen. He's not the speedster, but I will say this. The other 2-3 linebackers that played specifically early, they can run and covering a lot of ground in a hurry, and I liked what I saw there. Offensively, I saw some people on social media concerned that maybe Luther Burden wasn't getting his touches or didn't touch the ball more. Luther Burden's going to be fine. I'm not worried about that at all. Kirby Moore still showed a lot with different motions, formations. I thought Brady Cook looked confident when he needed to stand in the pocket, drive the football down the field. He did that, and he was deliberate with that. Weren't going to put him in harm's way. Left side of the offensive line, Caden Green and company still have a little bit of ways to go, but I thought center right looked pretty good. Armand Mimbu, a couple big blocks. You even had actually a couple of extra offensive linemen that got in the game down around the goal line and did some things. You might see that in the block party tonight on Read and React. Mitchell Walters, pretty good block lined up down there at tight end for Missouri, like 75, getting a little Peter roll down there, an old pancake block. It was fun to see. Marcus Carroll's going to fit in fine, physical back, more physical than I think the staff expected. Nate Noel, explosive. Not only Norfleet at tight end, but 80, I believe, at tight end, did some good things in the run game. So I came out, I had Missouri in the playoff. I came out of this game feeling just as good about them. I like just about everything that I saw. Some of the younger receivers look pretty good, making some plays. And, of course, we know about Mookie Cooper, Theo Weiss, Luther Burden, what they're going to be able to do. So it's going to be a handful, and they got a lot of time to be able to work some things out. But they handled their business 51-0 over Murray State. Brady Cook just 218 and a touchdown, but they spread the ball around to a lot of different players. And because of getting some big plays, pick six, being able to score early, that thing was out of whack, and it was just going to be a little bit of a different style football game. Arkansas gets to 1-0, 70-0 against Arkansas Pine Bluff. I'm just going to say this quickly, and I'm not trying to demean anyone. I'm not trying to put anybody down. I'm not trying to be mean to anyone. But I talked to McElroy about this on our radio show this morning, and he noticed it like I did. Folks, this gap between the FCS and the Power Five, it's bigger than it's ever been. If it keeps going down this path, this is not going to be right. There were some examples in this particular game of things that just should not be taking place. offensive linemen that didn't even look like they were 250 on film. It's just, I understand you need these paycheck games. They do a lot for these programs. I understand it, but player safety is going to have to be something that's at least approached and looked at with some of these games in the future, because if it keeps going the way these kids are getting plucked away, so you're playing a lot of these FCS teams with technically what would be their second and third string players, and you're going up against even better Power 5 teams. And I don't know, it stuck out to me in a couple of these games. I didn't like what I saw, but I understand the need for it. And it ended up working out well for Arkansas because they were able to run their offense, do a lot of different things. Taylor Green impressed me. Now, the ability to scramble, move around, be electric that way, do different things, that's the risk that you get, the reward that you get from the risk of playing him a little bit. But man, he tried the middle of the field. Like, Bobby's going to run a vertical-based offense. Like, he's going to push the ball down the field. And he'll test the middle of the field. But I didn't expect Taylor Green to be that comfortable throwing the ball over the middle of the field as he was in this game. And it was fun to see because he did a great job pushing the ball down the field. And I think that his ability to scramble and keep plays alive and then turn some of those plays into explosive runs and be dynamic with the ball in his hand, he's going to be dangerous, man. And Jaquindon Jackson running the football, like, he was bouncing off defenders. He looked explosive, 22, had it going. You got a good group of tight ends that were great in this game, not just catching the football, but also blocking. And I thought the offensive line looked a little bit better. 54 at right tackle. They run an outside zone away, and he's climbing all the way up almost to a backside linebacker or safety, 10, 12 yards down the field. Felt like center had a good game. Left guard, athletic, long, plays mean, has a chance, but technically has a little bit of ways to go. So that group could still sort of come into form. I'm not real worried about that group. I was really impressed with the front seven on defense because I don't feel like we knew, other than Landon Jackson, exactly what we were going to get. But once again, these linebackers can run just like last year. Xavier Story was flying sideline to sideline. And I think you have a good group with multiple backers that are going to play. Saw Landon Jackson moving around a little bit. He was disruptive. He was a force. But there were other interior defensive linemen that were causing problems. And if they can continue to do that, that's going to be a really good sign for an Arkansas defense that lost a lot of bodies and had a lot to replace and brought a lot of new bodies in. But like I said, I think you'll see more three down. Let a lot of the linebackers do some things. Let them line up and rush the passer every now and then, line them up different places. But felt pretty good about what I saw with Travis Williams' defense as well. I know the opponent, I get it, and what I just stated tells us even more about that. But still, you handle your business, I'm going to give you credit for it, because we see a lot of teams sleepwalk through these games. Arkansas didn't do that. I love the plan that Bobby gave them. Downhill run game. We saw the I formation. You saw some single back, two tight ends, which is that old pro set, one of my favorite formations in all of football. Then you saw single back, four wide. So he's already showing you that he's going to be diverse with his formations, tempo a little bit, how he gets the ball. You saw pistol formation, so you get some of your inside runs there. I like it's Bobby Petrino's offense, which I enjoy anyway, and you saw it full speed, and it was fun. All right, Friday night, Oklahoma and Temple. I know what a lot of people are upset about this from an Oklahoma perspective. The offensive line wasn't great, specifically early. Now, you got a couple centers that are dinged up. You're having to move some guys around. So keep that in mind first and foremost, okay? Second off, I think it took Seth Luttrell a little while to sort of figure some things out, because they ran a heavy gap scheme early. They were pin and pull early. So when you're dealing with a penetrating front, a lot of times you saw Florida had some issues with this. I mean, Florida had some of their split zone guys getting pushed back into running backs and guards not being able to go. They're attacking upfield and you're blocking back and pulling around. You can see where that would be a problem. You got to get your head across that penetrator coming upfield, make sure you body him off and allow those pullers to get around. That was a problem early, but as the game went on, I think they went to more zone scheme and they were able to sort some of the movement and penetration out and able to sort of help one another, some combos, and some guys come off a little bit late and some guys come off a little bit early, and you're able to sort of figure that out on your own and utilize different blocking techniques to figure it out. You saw the run game get going a little bit. Felt like Nine had some extra juice at running back when he played late. We know about Deion Burks and some of the receivers. Farouk had a big had a big catch down the sideline on that 7 route. We'll talk about that one on Read and React. But here's the thing that you need to know about Oklahoma's offense. Maybe going to have an issue with tight ends from a blocking perspective. And the offensive line is going to take some time to get sorted out. But Jackson Arnold's a friggin' dude. that play that I'm referencing, that 7 route, a little play action, slide protection, the D tackle spins back around. He's in his face. And when we ran it back tonight on the show, Jackson Arnold's feet are off the ground when he lets this ball go. He knows he's going to take a hit, but he delivers an absolute dime to Farouk over towards the sideline. Just a beautiful ball. So he showed toughness, grit, accuracy, deep ball accuracy, knowing you're going to take a hit. He made some really nice throws. He's so deliberate with getting in and out of those fakes, setting up, getting the ball out on time. And one thing that I love from Jackson Arnold in this game, some of the touch passes out on the perimeter. So many quarterbacks we'll see, they'll turn and just, they'll throw that thing and they'll try to get it out there real quickly, too much velocity. Jackson Arnold had good touch. He had good feel. He controlled his velocity on different style throws. I was impressed with that. Felt good about that. Now, also, I think one thing that I don't want to see against Temple specifically, Jackson Arnold, if you're paying attention, now don't get me wrong, I love you for this, and I have a full appreciation for this. But let's save this for the Auburn game or the Texas game. Well, quarterback power, he puts his face mask in a linebacker trying to truck his ass and run him over. We don't need that right now, okay? But listen, it's game one. We saw a couple of these new quarterbacks do that. We mentioned earlier Taylor Green at Arkansas. He took a couple unnecessary hits. I thought Blake Shapen took some unnecessary hits. Brock Vandergrift trying to run guys over. I just think some of these guys were so amped up in their first or second career start that they were just like, hell with it, man. Like, we're going. I appreciate it, again, but just not necessary. On the other side of the ball, that Oklahoma defense had some really good things going for them. And I thought up front, it was probably a little bit better than what I imagined. I wasn't really sure how it was going to look. I wasn't sure if that defensive line was going to be close to being dominant or how active they were going to be. I mean, you're starting a true freshman and he's going to get some reps. I didn't know exactly what it was going to look like. But I saw multiple defenders up front for this Oklahoma group that were problematic. Ethan Downs can get to the quarterback. Trace Ford can get to the quarterback off the edge. Mason Thomas, good speed off the edge, be able to get to the quarterback. Stutzman was great at linebacker. I don't need to tell you guys about him. I thought the linebacking core looked fast. Kobe McKenzie was burning back and forth across the sideline to sideline. He was covering ground. But up front, I thought Dejon Terry did some good things. Dominic Williams did some good things. Jaden Jackson got in there later. As a freshman, did some good things. David Stone, active, athletic, good hands and some pass rush moves, but then got out of his gap a little bit, maybe moving around just a little bit too much. He'll settle down. He'll figure it out, and I think he'll be fine. Grayson Halton had a couple of good reps. So I felt good about what I saw up front from that Oklahoma defensive line, and then with some specialty pass rushers off the edge, felt even better about that. Linebacker, speed, man. Kip Lewis and those guys can run, but we knew that. Here's what blew me away. I knew Billy Bowman was a good football player, but I think I was wowed by his ability to just read things, see things. If you go to Twitter at Cole Cubelic, I posted a video. They run this jet motion across, and what's cool about it is either the play or 2 plays before they ran it and didn't hand it to the guy, and he didn't even budge. And then 2 plays later, they run it again and hand it to him, and he literally meets the guy in the backfield, tackle for loss. But he gets going. Like, as soon as he starts running, Bowman starts running and meets him at the pass and cuts him off. I'm like, that's a freaking dude right there. And he's going to make up for a lot. The other part of that was Kendall Dolby, also at safety for Oklahoma, flying around, punishing people. So there were multiple players, second and third level, for this Oklahoma defense that were coming down to the box, making plays, doing things to be able to help that defense just be active closer to the line of scrimmage than defensive linemen and linebackers. I was impressed with Oklahoma's defense. I know it's Temple, but they look good, and they're fast and they're athletic. We'll see how they hold up physically to some bigger, more physical football teams, but a great start. The other thing with Jackson Arnold, the dude punched the ball inside the 5. Like, come on, what can this kid not do? He's running, he's eluding pressure outside, he's running with power inside, these deep balls, intermediate throws, getting out on the RPO game, and then he's punting the ball that's down inside the 5. Kid's incredible. Oklahoma fans, you're lucky to have him. He had 141 yards passing, 4 passing touchdowns without having to do a heavy lift in this game. All right, so Saturday I was in Lexington, by the way. And we'll get to just all of that when we get to the Kentucky game. Georgia Clemson, 34-3, Georgia gets the win. And I'm willing to say that this was done in dominant fashion. And some people will probably say, oh, score is not indicative. It was close, 6-0 at the half, the whole thing. Okay. But if you really dive into this game plan for Mike Bobo, it was not extensive early. It was a lot of just get the ball out in the flat, sort of make that defense run a little bit, feel them out. And I will admit this too. The Clemson defensive line was causing some problems early on. Georgia's offensive line wasn't dominant early. But here's the cool part about it. Georgia kept being Georgia. Mike Bobo didn't panic. Mike Bobo didn't start throwing the ball over the field, throwing the ball down the field, trying to hit deep balls. He didn't start running reverses and all this other crazy shit. He stayed with who he was. And it took some time to figure it out. It took some time to wear that defensive front down. And then they started leaning on him. Oh, and by the way, you find a guy, Nate Frazier, who might end up being your dude at running back, who helped a little bit as well. But there's a toss sweep to the left later in the game where you got a tight end who's cracking the way that it should be done. Ernest Green's pulling out there at left tackle, knocking somebody around. You got two offensive linemen 8-9 yards down the field trying to climb up to the second level. Receivers are blocking. Frazier's bouncing the thing all the way back across the field. When the Georgia offense there was also a little wheel route that Beck kind of half rolled to the right. When they get it all in, and that thing hit down the sideline, when they are all in rhythm and they're playing on the same page, they're going to be tough to stop. And the physicality is going to continue to come. Colby Young, bigger than I expected. He looked like a monster out there. He's going to be a massive red zone threat. And then guess what? We told you about London Humphreys on this show, and who's your go-to third down guy? Former Vanderbilt wide receiver London Humphreys, a couple of big catches in this game. Defensively, I thought Carson Beck was sharp. He was under a little bit of pressure early, but again, they figured it out. And that's all I want to see against a quality opponent. One of the better defensive fronts that Georgia's going to play this year. Point blank. That's all that needs to be said. There's no ifs, ands, buts, maybes. That is one of the best front sevens that Georgia will play. And look what they just did. They handled it. Carson Beck goes for 278 and 2 touchdowns. So it was an impressive performance by the Georgia offense. Defensively, you saw Micah Williams showed up a little bit in this game. He flashed. Warren Brinson did some really nice things inside for this defense. Christian Miller did a couple of nice things inside for this defense. And you saw Nazir Stackhouse. He's been around for a while. But that's not really what stuck out to me about this Georgia defense. Maybe we needed to see some of the defensive linemen kind of prove themselves and do a few things. Okay. But what stuck out to me is, and feels like there's going to be a reoccurring theme here with multiple defenses this week, they can run. Oh, buddy, can they run. We knew Smile Munden could run, but Raylan Wilson gets in the game, and he looks like he's headhunting. And there's no negative connotation on that at all. I literally mean that with like the miles per hour that he was hitting on his GPS. Damon Wilson, twitched up, can fly. I saw Gabe Harris, my guy, getting there on the edge a little bit, trying to do some damage. Chaz Chambliss is lining up out on the perimeter, holding up blockers on the screen where his teammates can come and make a play. He's blowing that thing up. Dan Jackson and Malachi Starks coming down in the box. KJ Bolden, the true freshman safety, is flying down in the box. I mean, they're fast, man. Like, it is a fast defense. It's the first thing that stuck out to me watching them. Is they can go, and they got a couple of guys that can get it off the edge. Really like Jalen Walker's usage. Put him on the edge, rush the passer. Line him up off the ball, get him inside, rush the passer. Do some things off the ball. He's going to be a massive piece of what this defense can turn into this year. But, man, the physicality is obviously there. It might not be what it was 4 or 5 years ago. That's fine. But different players doing different things, and just speed to the ball. Precision, again, with how they operate, it's different than the way a lot of other people do it. If I was a Georgia fan, I'd feel really good about my defense and what they put on film and what I saw on film game one. All right, so Texas gets Colorado State 52-0. You're happy with that. It's a blowout win. You handle your business against a Colorado State team that's actually, they've done some good things here over the last few years. It's not a complete pushover like some of these FCS teams that we'll talk about. There was one concerning part, though, about Texas and what they did and kind of maybe did not do. Quinn Ewers, 263 touchdowns. interception was tipped. Arch gets in there, does some good things. Thought he looked good on the move. Thought he did some nice things as far as getting the ball out on time, some of the accuracy. So you begin to build him up and get him ready as well. Jaden Blue looked explosive, making guys miss. And then when he needed to turn, square his shoulder pads up and get downhill, he did that. So I felt pretty good about what he brought to the table. Jared Gibson has a little bit of an extra gear. Feel good about him as well. But that running back depth still going to be a concern moving forward. The thing that I like about this group is the catch and run ability that they have. Like Matthew Golden is your perfect catch and run guy. Isaiah Bond can be a catch and run guy. Jonte Cook had some nice yards after the catch. So where you saw, and listen, it's a motion-based matchup offense that Sark runs. But because the offensive line is pretty athletic and you got a good group of tight ends again, and I think because you're maybe down a couple of backs, the screen game becomes a little bit more important. And that's where Quinn Ewers and his magic, like his wizardry of just sidearm or overhand or underhand, like I'm waiting for him to like fast pitch softball one to a dude and complete it somehow. But that quick release, odd body angles, changing things up like that, that's where the screen game is going to become lethal because he gets it out so fast. And you got a couple of offensive linemen that can move, even though they're bigger. Like Kelvin Banks can get out there in a hurry. That's going to make a big difference. And I think they're going to lean maybe a little bit more on that than the run game. My concern is the run game looked very east-west. And with an offensive line that has this kind of girth and this kind of power, you want to see this group be able to impose their will at times, or it's coming this weekend, just be able to hold up against more physical fronts. Now, this may be the most physical front that they're going to get coming up this weekend, so we're about to find out. Also, backside of a lot of the run plays is close. It's really close to being problematic. A couple things to that. So there were very few quarterback keeps on those plays. So one, you're telling us don't want to run the quarterback in this game, don't need it, it's a waste of time. Would agree with that. Two, there were some handoff, turn and maybe fakes that they could throw the ball or have a screen read to the other side. I'm fine with that also. But you can't allow backside defenders made one or two plays and were really close on a couple of others. And this could all be a setup by Sark down the road of those being fakes and, quarterback keep, give, run, RPO, or throw an uncovered, pre-snap read and adjustment. All those things can be a part of this. But I still want to see them be able to line up and run inside zone or be able to line up and run duo and let this offensive line lean on some people. There's a couple of groups that I think are capable that weren't really asked to do that. Case in point, what we just said about Georgia. They were allowed to figure things out and then try and lean on that Clemson defensive line later in the game. And they did that to a certain extent. But you feel good about the receivers and their ability to be explosive with the ball in their hand. Your quarterback's comfortable, confident. He gets the ball out on time, got into a pretty good rhythm. You feel good about your backup quarterback, and you feel good about a couple of your reserve offensive linemen. I'm telling you, Cole Hudson's got to get in the game more. I mean, Cole Hudson's got to play. And, your left guard had some struggles in this game, got beat a few times, and Cole Hudson comes in and he bonks a defensive end on the ground. He pulls out there and just like thumps him to the ground. No wristbands, no gloves, no tape, no nothing. I love this kid. He's as throwback as it gets. It's not just because his name's Cole. But like he's an MFer out there, man. He's a glass eater. I want him to play more. Find different ways to use him. I know they use an extra offensive lineman at time. Like he needs to be that guy, in my opinion. Nonetheless, you feel good about things offensively. Wondered what the defense would look like. Like, how was that defense going to be with those two big D tackles gone? Well, I'll tell you right now, Bill Norton got it done. I saw him at Arizona last year, know what he's capable of. He's big time inside. Barron Sherrill did a little bit, even lining up down inside, a little bit more inside than he has in the past, a little bit more. Alfred Collins, 95, was really good. Vernon Broughton, 45, I thought did some really good things inside. There's a drop-off, yes, because those two last year were so incredible, but it wasn't this drop-off to where that's going to be a liability or a problem. I actually think the middle of the defense looked pretty good. And then, of course, we've all been waiting to see what some of the edge guys are going to look like in this defense. And that's where I'm just telling you, man, like number 11, Colin Simmons is going to be a dude. I think he made the first tackle of the game. Like it was early and he flies out and makes a play out on the perimeter, he's an athlete. He's gifted, and he's going to help that defense do a lot. I did not think it was a good test for the secondary, and that's where a lot of our questions are. So I still wonder how much more improved, if they're improved, how much the same that we're going to get on the third level of this defense. And honestly, you're probably not going to get that test this week either, because Michigan doesn't look super capable of pushing the ball down the field. But you're going to have to be stout up front, and Texas looked like they're going to be able to be that to me based on what I saw. So a good win for Sark and company. A couple concerns coming out, but all in all, I think you feel good. Alabama 63, Western Kentucky 0. By the way, 5 wins of 60 or more for the SEC this week. That ties the most ever in an entire season for the Southeastern Conference. So all in all, it was a pretty dominant weekend for the league outside of a couple of games that, of course, we're going to get to. All right, offense, interesting. So Caden Proctor goes out with a shoulder injury right before the game in warm-ups. So now you got to move some guys around, and you're mixing and matching, and you can imagine what that's like. Like, your starting left tackle gets hurt in warm-ups. It's panic mode. Everybody's head spinning. But you come in, and all of a sudden now, okay, we're going to take our right tackle, and we're going to move him over to left tackle. And, we've got, Wilk and Formby was sort of splitting those reps with Pritchett anyway. So Pritchett goes to left, which he had repped a little bit there. So you figure it out. I didn't think the offensive line was great. I also, similar to Texas, because of what the middle had the capabilities to be with Brailsford, Jaden Roberts, and Tyler Booker, I thought they'd get the chance to just lean and push and impose their will and move people. And it was a lot of gap scheme run early. There was some perimeter run. I do think some of the quarterback run that you saw, that's going to be a mainstay. That's going to be every week. They're going to utilize that moving forward. I thought the tight ends had a great game. Robbie Oots did some nice things. Josh Cuevas did some good things. That's a group that I don't think that a lot of people have spent a lot of time talking about, that I really do believe is going to be able to help this football team this upcoming season, because I think they have, CJ Japri. I've talked about Danny Lewis athletically, like what he might be able to be for this group. It's a position group that I think is a little bit underrated for Alabama right now. And at least from a blocking perspective, I thought they had a really nice game. I was impressed with what they did. I thought Jalen Milroe handled things well. Felt good about his game, what he did. Missed a couple here and there. Still getting set up properly. Minor issue with him, throwing off the back foot, not getting the feet set, trying to arm it. But some of those he completed. So you're not overly concerned about it. And wide receiver was a big question that we had. And, of course, the freshman Ryan Williams looks fantastic. Not a ton of targets to Jeremy Bernard, who we think is going to be another one of those guys that helps him out. I thought Parker Brailsford played great, by the way. One of the better games I've seen him play. He was awesome in this game. All in all, I didn't think it was one of the better games I've seen the Alabama offensive line have in recent memory. But it's a work in progress. It's a new offense. It's going to take a little bit of time to figure things out. Justice Haynes looked good, had a big long run, and looks like he's the guy that's going to be able to help him downhill. Just wanted to see him get more opportunities to really do that. Defensively, man, we had a lot of questions. And if you watch Read and React, you'll see Roman talk about this vision defense and how different it is. Like, you saw times where Deontay Lawson would be manned up on a back out of the backfield, but he stops and those eyes go right back to the quarterback. Maybe it's the numbers, 0 and 11, but it felt like, and we've seen this happen with so many Bama guys over the years, it felt like Deontay Lawson and Jihad Campbell significantly changed their bodies and got them tweaked up to be faster and more athletic. Like Jihad Campbell, there's one play where he's flat-footed out on the edge at the end of the line of scrimmage, and a back's coming wide, and that back gets ahead of him, and he has to track that back down to the sideline, and the back can't get the corner, and he tracks him down. I mean, just like mega speed on the edge there. That was my takeaway from the Alabama defense. A little more disruptive up front than I expected, and fast, like athletic and speed all over the place. Some of the edge guys that you saw out there, doing some different things, I think we may have found who the main one's going to be, and that's Quay Russaw. Four was getting it, and he's got a motor, and he might have an extra gear than some of the other guys. Q Robinson had a couple of nice wins in pass pro. Like, he had a little inside move, and he had a little dip and rip where he was able to get to the quarterback. I liked what I saw from Tim Smith. Now, it went away a little bit at times. It's flashing, but it's flashing a little bit more often than it has. Tim Keenum did some good things. I thought Jamarian Latham did some good things. LT Overton, we saw what his role is going to be. He was kind of that 3-down defensive end and a lot of power coming off the ball. Also, 23, James Smith after him, I thought showed a lot of punch, strong hands, and a guy that can really be a problem out there on the edge. But there were multiple players that, like Jihad Campbell, lined up on the edge off the ball. He did some different things. It was an impressive performance. And then the back end, I mean, you got a new safety who's coming in Keon Sabb, who grabs a couple of footballs, does a great job getting a jump on a couple of different balls. So all in all, impressive performance for Bama's defense. TJ Finley, a couple bad throws, gave it back to him a few times, but 63-0, you'll take that win. You'll move on to the next one. Ole Miss smashes Furman 76-0. 418 and 5 touchdowns for Jackson Dart. That was in the first half, folks. Wow. Did think the offensive line at times looked like it's got a little more pop, a little more power, but holy hell, Juice Wells. I told you guys, if Juice Wells is that dude with Trey Harris and Caden Priestcorn and Jackson Dart, who has mobility, watch out. And this was not a complicated game plan. There wasn't a lot of new stuff. I mean, this was almost out there just like running plays. And you got Trey Harris stiff-arming people into the end zone, 8 for 179 and 2 touchdowns. Juice had a couple of big plays. Jackson Dart looked fantastic, decisive. Now, there were some breakdowns in protection. Like, they missed a couple blitzes, a couple pressures, just didn't get them twisted off. So the continuity with that offensive line still needs to grow a little bit more. But I saw a couple of guys, like, getting after some folks. I saw a couple of guys up front that at least seemed to have a little bit more fight than I've seen from that group in a little while. Julius Below's got that. Micah Pettis had it. I mean, he was getting after some folks. Nate Kalepo, 71, was getting after some people. And I'm talking like going to the whistle and finding work, different things like that. So, I mean, it was video game-like what the Ole Miss offense did. And like I said, it was not very complicated with what they were out there doing. Aiden Williams had a couple good grabs, but it's about what you expected, maybe then some. Ulysses Bentley looked good at running back. So they're fine on offense. It's just about that O-line maybe coming together. And are they going to be able to be a north-south run team? And, who's going to be able to cover them? I don't think there's going to be many teams that are going to be able to do it. Defensively, Walter Nolan looks good in there. I mean, Trey Amos is going to be a really good fit in this scheme, in this defense. Chris Paul, we tried to tell you that dude can play, and he looked good in that Pete Golding defense. And Pete wanted to bulk up a little bit. Linebacker, he wanted more size, more length. I know nickel safety, he wanted more size, more length. It's starting to look more like the offense that Pete Golding wants physically with how they look. J.J. Pegues and Akilo Stone up front, we know who they are. Looks good and gives them a more physical presence combined across the board up front than maybe they've had in a long time. Really impressive from Ole Miss handling their business over the weekend. Notre Dame and A&M, 23-13. A couple things stick out for me in this game. Not overly confident in the second and third level of the A&M defense, but the defensive line's real deal. Nick Scourton lived up to the hype. Hated to see him get dinged for a minute, but he can freaking get it off the edge. And bigger, I don't know why he looks bigger in this uniform than last year, but like he's just more stout than I remembered. Shamar Turner down inside, I probably didn't like as much, but you're still going to be able to move him. He was active. He did some things. I think that this is a defensive line that they're going to be able to lean on. It's going to be problematic. They're going to be able to keep them in games. They just got to make sure that the second and third level of the defense keep up. And then offensively, the offensive line was rough. I don't know another way to say it. I don't know a nice way to say it. Consistently couldn't get the run game going. I do think that you have good backs. You have backs you can probably lean on. I thought Le'Veon Moss did some good things in this game, but also keep in mind, like Howard Cross in that group is a really good front seven that Notre Dame brings to the table. Not far off from anything else that they're going to see in this league, but the protection issues have got to go. And I think there's got to be a little bit of a meet in the middle somewhere with Colin Klein in that offense of exactly how you're going to use Connor Wigman. This offense is used to having quarterback mobility. It's been built in, so that has opened other things up. How are you going to go without that or find a way to get that maybe in a different area? But the skill guys, I think, are fine. The receivers did some good things. Backs did some good things. but Connor Wigman just didn't have time. I thought he panicked a little bit. Didn't feel like he got set up correctly. Then there's some other times he began to roll when he didn't have to. He rolled into pressure a couple of times. And this thing came down to A&M not being able to get the quarterback on the ground. And I thought ultimately that was it because Riley Leonard kept plays alive, but more importantly, he avoided catastrophe plays. And the 2 turnovers were probably the difference in the game, really and truly, because Notre Dame avoided the catastrophe plays. And it was a slugfest, slow-paced, kind of grounded-out football game, but Notre Dame didn't make very many big mistakes in this one. And from a protection standpoint and a turnover standpoint, A&M made a couple, had some opportunities late, and just couldn't get it done. So props to Notre Dame. That was a young offensive line that they brought in there. And there's a couple of these I'm going to get to, but there's a narrative right now that this Notre Dame offensive line, that they kicked the shit out of the A&M defensive line. That's just not true. You go to 2 of the big runs that Notre Dame had late, A&M stunted out of both of those runs. So, but I don't want to take credit away from that group because being young in that environment, doing what you did, it's impressive. I will tip my cap to them, but this was not, Quentin Nelson's group against LSU in the bowl game, going literal SummerSlam and DDTing folks in the end zone like that. It wasn't that, but going to be interesting to see where A&M goes offensively because I do think they need some adjustments as to just how they're going to manage it all. Tennessee takes out Chattanooga 69-3. There are some takeaways here from this game. I thought the offensive line looked pretty good. Outside of that 2-minute drill late first half, I thought Nico looked great. Layering the football, incredible. He attempted a couple of throws that most quarterbacks, I know there's no way in hell that they're even going to think that they can make. And one tipped, dropped that was there, an accurate ball. Another one caught over the middle of the field with linebackers at a lot more depth than you're normally going to see. Deep ball accuracy right there on point. But maybe the most impressive part of Nico's game that I saw was just how he stands in the pocket. All the confidence in the world, all the poise in the world, backs down from nothing, not afraid of anything. And you can just tell he's like, I got this. Like, this is my show. He oozed that in this game. I said before the season, Dylan Sampson was massive and that they had to have him. And if he went out of the game, they would be very different. Well, he proved it. 12 for 124 and 3 touchdowns. Dylan Sampson is going to make them different. They're going to make them extra, just like the tight ends do. And 87 was added again. I thought the tight ends did a nice job with the inserts, helping a little bit in pass pro. Didn't have to do a lot catching the football, but they make them different with how they operate at the line of scrimmage. And it makes them more difficult to defend. And this group of receivers is just next level, man. Like we saw Brazzle, we know what he's going to be out of Tulane. If Dante Thornton can keep being that guy down the field, you got Brew McCoy back, Squirrel White in the slot. They're not coverable across the board with all the different weapons that they have. Now, you still want to see the left side of the offensive line pick it up a little bit more. And, of course, they have to have Mays at center. Defensively, I thought the defensive line was disruptive. We sort of knew that was going to be the case. Didn't get a great test as to what the secondary is going to look like. Did think Boo was kind of all over the place, though. He looked like he's going to be somebody that consistently makes plays, and having Peely back is huge. He's another one that they have to have. But this was an all-around dominant performance from Tennessee, exactly what you want against this opponent, and it sets you up for a tough one against NC State this upcoming week. All right, Florida goes down to Miami 41-17, just a disappointing game. I don't know another way to say it. There's something that I reference with effort. Executional effort is what we'll call it. There are ways that you can make it look like you're trying really hard. You can flail your arms. You can bob your head real fast. You can turn and run when you know you made a mistake. And it all comes across as you're giving great effort. The effort has to be executional, though. The effort has to be up against the people that are lined up across from you. And if that means taking on a block, or if that means going out and trying to block somebody and making physical contact with that human being, you have to do that. If that means keeping contained when it's not the cool, fun thing to do out on the edge, you have to do that, knowing where your rush lanes are. It's great to sprint down inside and give this big rip move on the guard, and your head's bobbing and sweat's flying, but you're in the wrong freaking gap, and the quarterback runs for 20 yards. And I'm just going to say this really quick. That quarterback would have been walking out of bounds on me. I'd have unbuckled his chin strap for him. That to me was uncalled for. Other than that, Cam Ward was incredible. Thought he played an amazing game. Thought the way he manipulated the pocket, worked the pocket, was fantastic. Outside of blitzes and blitz packages, Florida couldn't generate a rush. Could not get home with 3 or 4. It just wasn't happening. It gave him time to pick them apart, and he did that. Then when there was a little bit of pressure, because most guys weren't staying in rush lanes, didn't have rush lane integrity, or weren't keeping contained, he was able to just lollygag his way for 15 or 20 yards outside the tackle box. It just lacked discipline, and some of it lacked want to. You get a check down to the back out of the backfield, which is essentially what you're going for, what you want, and one player comes up, dives, misses a tackle, and there's nobody within 18 yards after that. Like that, you can't, that's not how you play defense. Offensively, struggled with a penetrating front. This was an attacking Miami front that caused problems. They got in the backfield. They got the Florida offensive lineman off track. You're running split zone one time, so a zone to the right and the tight end's coming to the left, and the penetration literally knocks the tight end back into the running back when he's trying to come flat across the line of scrimmage. So I thought that there needed to be more quick game. I thought some of the plays were a little bit too long developing. And some of this I do think can be repaired, but if you're not in there willing to stick your face mask into somebody's chest or their face mask and do some of the dirty work, it's going to be a long season for the Florida Gators. That stuff's got to change, and it's got to change immediately. I thought Lagway looked good when he came in. I thought Montreal ran the ball hard. There wasn't a ton of space. And, I still do think that the defensive line can be good, but they got to find a way to get some one-on-one pass rush wins. Like that has to happen. And the pass protection offensively, specifically on the right side, has got to get better. You get your quarterback concussed, he's out of the game. Just things that are not going to allow you to be competitive with a good football team. And let's be real, right now Miami has more talent than Florida does. And it showed, but they also played harder, played smarter, and used their effort in an execution manner that allowed them to go win that football game the way that they did. What a win for Vanderbilt, 34-27 over Virginia Tech. Nobody saw this coming. Nobody thought this could happen. But Vandy's got the ultimate playmaker, man. Diego Pavia is a freaking bulldog. And Auburn fans know what he's capable of doing. I caught a couple of his games last year. 3-time state wrestling champion. Ain't afraid of a damn thing. And has a good arm, like a couple of really nice balls down the field. Similar to what we talked about with Jackson Arnold, like the RPO stuff, he'll get out of that mesh and set up, and boom, he can deliver a strike quickly and accurately. Now, he's not always accurate, but that's okay. Like you'll take that with what you get from the run game. Put some option principles in, force the defense to defend it, go RPO, take your chances down the field. I mean, it was really cool to see. And they got a couple of other playmakers. Like, I love the way Cedric Alexander runs the football. High knees, looking for contact, spinning off of guys, bouncing off tackles, 17 for 69 and a touchdown, but he ran hard. Also, Quincy Skinner down the field, a receiver that can go attack the football, can help you there. Eli Stowers, you saw him on the block party on Read and React. He's out there bowling guys into the end zone at tight end, catching passes. Like he's going to be a weapon with some versatility that they can use in different ways. The biggest difference, though, two things. I mean, listen, Diego is a massive difference, and he's just a gamer. I mean, the one pass near the end zone where he's running and he pops it over to the side, like he's just a ball player, man. He looks like he's out there at Maison DeVille Apartments where I grew up playing in the backyard. But offensive line was different. And you now have an offensive line coach that was back with Nevada and the Chris Alt days, and the pistol, getting some of that stuff going, who has experience in these kind of offenses that can get them on the same page. And you got a couple new bodies that are a little more capable. I did not expect to say this, but I'm going to say it because I watched the film and I watched the game live, and this is what happened. Folks, Vanderbilt pushed Virginia Tech around. Now, maybe not consistently for 4 quarters, maybe not every play, every series, but for more of that game than they did not, they pushed Virginia Tech around. And defensively, they got after it. Jeremiah Wright at safety was active. They have 2 edge defenders. The one German kid, Linus Zunk, love that name. He was in the backfield, pretty good pass rush, had a pretty good pass rush as well off the edge from some of their younger players. I think it was Corday Sidnor. Sidnor. Sorry. 95, 96, I believe, both of them off the edge, providing a good pass rush. Langston Patterson was flying around at linebacker. Like, they just looked more active, more confident running to the football than they did a year ago. I assume that's Clark Lee having his hands on it. And that's a big reason that's taking place, but I don't really know. Either way, it looked great. It looked different. This is a huge win, and you had it in hand. You allowed Virginia Tech to come back, and then what do? You go lean on your quarterback and you slam the door on them and you get the win in overtime. It was really cool to see. I'm happy for Clark Lee, happy for a lot of those guys from that New Mexico State staff that came over. And they're going to be a handful, man. I'm just telling you, because they got some dudes that just don't care and will play their rear ends off. Running back, offensive line, quarterback, receiver, safety, linebacker, like edge. They got some guys that will play hard. And they're going to be a freaking handful to deal with, I promise you. But that's a great win for Clark Lee, and all of a sudden that season looks really different for Vanderbilt moving forward. All right, so Vanderbilt gets a good win. South Carolina struggles with Old Dominion, 23-19. It's not as bad as the score looks. So let me say that. Defensive line, active. Okay, we knew the D tackles were going to be a problem, and the D tackles will be able to be in the backfield. Like, saw Sanders in the backfield doing some good things. Tonka Hemingway was back there doing some good things. But Kyle Kennard off the edge, Dylan Stewart off the edge, this is kind of new. These guys, they're going to be able to make some plays down the road. Gilbert Edmond helping there just a little bit as well. Thought Debo Williams at linebacker was pretty good. Thought the secondary was fine. Turned them over when they had to. You can't put the ball on the ground, and the offensive line's got to clean things up. I'm not going to be overly concerned about the defense right now. Old Dominion passed for 197 and ran for 108. One of those was a scramble by the quarterback for 36 yards where you went 2-3 techniques, and no one replaced back inside on 4th and 7. He goes right up the gut for a touchdown. That can't happen. That was just a bust. But still, by alignment, you almost let that happen right out of the gate. I love the way Rocket Sanders ran the ball. I love the feel that Lenore Sellers has for running the football. Like, he can be someone that you lean on from a rushing standpoint. I thought tight ends did a good job helping out. Joshua Simon had a really nice chip on one pass play where he decleated the dude. But the offensive line has just got to get it going. And I know that group took some things personal. They wanted to have a big year. I know they put in some extra work, and it's going to take some time. You never fully grab that continuity right out of the gate, but that's the group that's going to need to improve the most if this team is going to be okay. But you got a front defensively, I think, that can make plays. You have a quarterback that's dangerous, a running back that's more than capable. And even when you saw, one of the old heads, Juju McDowell, came in there and had a couple good runs. So I think you have some other bodies that are going to be able to help you at running back. You got a bunch of veterans sprinkled across this team. You just got to get the certain parts of it right. And I'm not going to go nuts over this because there were some mistakes that were made and there were some things that can be corrected as to why this looked the way that it did. I just don't think it's that bad. I'm not ready to hit the panic mode just yet in Columbia, South Carolina, because they got some talent and they got some guys that can make some plays. Speaking of guys who can make plays, Mississippi State. Whoa, buddy. 56-7, they beat Eastern Kentucky. I'm just going to tell you right now, folks, as long as number 2 is running quarterback, they're going to be a problem. Blake Shapen can run it. That's one of the things you look for early with these newer quarterbacks, whether it's Taylor Green, Brock Vandergriff, Blake Shapen, is how they operate the offense and the confidence in which they do that. Blake Shapen is sharp out of his fakes. The mesh comes out, boom. Keeps his eyes left, locks the corner down, reloads, hits the deep ball. Bam. They have some receivers that can go. Jordan Mosley, he can get it. Kevin Coleman, he can get it. Mario Craver, he can get it. Creed Whittemore, nice run on the end around. And you still are going to get maybe your best receiver back who wasn't even out there. So you got a dangerous group of receivers. You've got a quarterback that can break you down with his legs. Now, I said this about Jackson Arnold. I'm going to say this about Blake Shapen also. Protect yourself. If it's the Egg Bowl or whatever, and you're trying to make a play, I get it. But Eastern Kentucky trying to run kids over, we don't need that right now. He's too important to that football team, and he's got to begin to protect himself a little bit more. I thought Ethan Miner played great at center. I loved Marlon Martinez's aggressiveness. I think 76, Albert Reese has got a chance to be really good. He did some things that caught my eye in this game. The offensive line, a little more physical than I expected. The tight end group will separate them. Seydou Traore had 3 or 4 really big blocks in this game. And I know he didn't get a lot of targets. He didn't catch a lot of balls. But I'm telling you, he made some things happen. He was vital to what this offense did, and he's going to continue to be important to them having success. Justin Ball, Cameron Ball, like this tight end group's good. It's going to help them. And multiple backs did good things. We knew this coming out of spring that there wasn't a lot of separation, and that's fine. That just means that there's not going to be a big change off with whoever comes in or goes out in different ways. But, man, I love the way this offense operated. I really do. It looked clean. It looked efficient. And that, when I say that, people are going to say, well, it's Eastern Kentucky. I don't care who it was against. I don't. I want to see clean operation of your offense. I want to see you get to the line of scrimmage, get the play in, and snap the football and go run the play. I want to see you execute the plays correctly. It doesn't always matter if you're mowing somebody off the ball right now. Get to the right guys. Get to your spots. Make a catch and then make somebody miss and gain extra yards. Mississippi State did this all on a regular basis in this game. The quarterback knew where to go with the ball. When he did tuck it down, there wasn't a lot of dancing, east-west, moving, doing 360s and pirouettes. He tucked the ball and he ran, which is what needs to happen. He was deliberate with the football, came away feeling really good about the offense. Defensively, there's some action up front. We had some dudes. DeMonte Russell caused some problems. Kendrick Bingley-Jones, got to get the pad level down. 22's pads are too high on a consistent basis. That can't keep happening. I thought Calvin Dinkins, 35, did some good things. He was somebody that I noticed on film that flashed a little bit. Deontay Anderson, 91, flashed a little bit on film. I like seeing Don Terry Russell off the ball some. Line him up on the edge, rush the passer. Get him off the ball, let him run a little bit. He showed decent instincts as an off-the-ball linebacker on a couple of plays in this game. Stone Blanton, solid. Brandon Jennings, solid. Ty Cooper can run. Ty Cooper got after it just a little bit. Like seeing him, hunt and seek the football and try to go make some plays. So what I loved about what Coleman Holzer did with this defense, to me at least, I hadn't talked to him, is he says, screw it. We're going to be a defense that can do just almost everything. Stunts, twists, pressures, blitzes, lining guys up different places, moving guys around, and he got it going early. So he wants them to be comfortable with those things because he probably knows we're not going to be able to sit here and play a lot of people straight up. So let's get comfortable with how to replace each other. When one goes in, the other's got to be out. When one penetrates, the other's got to loop. When we slant, got to replace backside. He wants them to start understanding how all that's going to take place. So he did a lot in this game. They were active up front. But I love that because you can't go 3-4 games and all of a sudden say, oh, shit, this team's going to push us around. What are we going to do? We better start moving, and you're not used to doing it, and you get guys out of place, and you look like Florida looked in their defensive game plan the other day. So I appreciate him getting a little bit ahead of the curve and getting the guys used to it and wanting to go out there and try to make some plays, make some things happen. Jordan Mosley, by the way, 5 for 104, had a touchdown. Shapen, 15 of 20, 247, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Ran 7 times for 44 yards and a touchdown. It was a good, clean offensive showing from Mississippi State. Feel good about it if you're a Bulldog fan. Alabama A&M and Auburn, 73-7. Good Lord. It was 28-0 at the end of the first quarter. I think it was the biggest halftime deficit in the history of the score, like the last 100 years, whatever. Like second most points scored in a game, 800th win in the history of Auburn football. There's some really nice takeaways here. Alabama A&M was outmatched. I get that. I understand that. I'm going to start up front. Connor Lew played a good football game. But, folks, if you're an Auburn fan, Jeremiah Wright at right guard, that's what we've been waiting for. They have not had a human that eats glass, that has the ability to move other humans against their will the way that this young man will have in a long time. He has that kind of power. He has that kind of ability, and he showed it. That double team on Jarquez Hunter's long run down the right side, watch Connor Lew and Jeremiah Wright bulldoze a D tackle about 7-8 yards off the ball. That's what he can bring. And the extra effort that he showed finishing blocks. He was looking for work. He's driving his feet, pushing guys into the end zone 7-8 yards away from the ball, just trying to finish and punish guys. That's the demeanor that has been lacking, and Auburn might have a little bit of it left. Connor Lew's got some of that too. I thought the right side was great. I thought Dylan Way was fine at left guard. Left tackle left a little bit to be desired. That position looked a little bit lazy. You know, Percy's a little bit of a backbender. That's got to change. That's got to come around some. I didn't think the tight ends blocked well. And that's something in Hugh's offense where they're going to be asked to do just a little bit every now and then. You got to stick your nose in there and at least give good effort with it. I didn't see enough of that. Thought the backs ran hard. Jarquez did not get a ton of carries. He didn't get a ton of run. But I think they showed we can run the football the way that they want to. With Peyton Thorne's ability to now keep the ball, what he can do with his legs, how he can break you down, that was a real positive as well. And I think Hugh Freeze went in this game and said, one, I want to see what these receivers can do. Two, I want my receivers to be happy. Three, I want to try to put some people on notice about what this receiver room can do. And he did that. And a lot of what we thought, I mean, listen, whether it's Ryan Williams, Cam Coleman, whoever it is, if a guy's 20 yards wide open down the field, what can we make of that? Okay, you caught a ball that a guy threw you and you were open. Yeehaw. But I saw clean routes. I saw separation. I saw physicality. These receivers were actually getting out there trying to block a little bit. And some of the freshmen were out there getting out there trying to block. Malcolm Simmons, 3 for 91. Perry Thompson, 2 for 82. Keandre Lambert-Smith, the Penn State transfer, 3 for 82 touchdowns. He has a little more burst than I thought he did watching his Penn State stuff. Cam Coleman, 2 for 62 and a touchdown. Sam Jackson, the Cal transfer, 1 for 37. Remember, he's going to help in different ways. He can be your sort of Swiss Army knife guy and do some different things. Robert Lewis, 1 for 8, was hoping to see him go a little bit more, but, you know, hey, it'll come around. Sam Jackson had 3 carries too. I thought Peyton Thorne looked confident. I thought he looked calm. There wasn't a lot of panic. I counted 2 plays in the game where he gave you the extra pats. Like, and you started to get just a little anxious in the pocket, but not many at all. And you saw receivers go help the quarterback. You saw the quarterback help himself. Protection, a couple breakdowns. I'd like for it to be a little better. That can come. But all in all, you feel great about what this offense did. You wanted to go out and build confidence and prove, number one, to yourself that you're capable of going and doing these things. I thought the Auburn offense did that. Defensively, we had a whole slew of names I didn't expect to be doing things that they were doing. Jalen McLeod, rushing the passer, off the ball just a little bit more. I love the versatility of how you used him. I love the fact that DJ played a lot of guys. D-line, edge, off the ball, doing different things with them, changed the fronts a little bit. He kind of did more than I expected him to do in this game. Showed a little bit more. Malik Blockton did some good things up front. Keldrick Falk, really nice use of his hands. He's so long, keeping guys at bay, using those hands, both pass rush, bull rush, and against the run. Thought he did some really good things. Kerryon Crawford, the Arkansas State transfer, 24, I think. On the edge, you saw how active he can be. Now, he didn't make a bunch of plays, but you saw that physically, quickness, athleticism, he's going to be able to move around and do some different things. He'll help that group a little bit. I thought the linebackers were super active. Philip Bleedy inside did some nice things, moving around a little bit. So I just don't know if I expected that many guys to give me good reps in this defense. But we saw it. Like Quintrell Jamison Travis, 97 on the defensive line. So he was in there early making some plays, doing some things. But Mousy at linebacker, Asante at linebacker, doing some good things. I thought active, physical, and Jaron Thompson at safety. I liked a lot of what I saw. Trill Carter was in there, filling up some space. There were a lot of positives up front. Amaris Williams, I thought, did some good things. And I'd say Amaris Williams, 10, was about as active as anybody on the whole defense. Didn't get a ton of run, more than maybe we thought. But I remember hearing from a few people that like, hey, watch him, might be able to help. Like he's physically built a little bit different and showed you he can stand up and play out on the edge. He can rush the passer a little bit. Watch out for 10 on that Auburn defense this fall. But a dominant win, handled your business, physically imposed your will in certain areas. That's about all you could ask for this Auburn football team. And I think you proved to yourself that you can be somebody who wins through the air. Kentucky 31, Southern Miss 0. Great time in Lexington. Went to Jeff Ruby's. Had my Blue Delta jeans on. By the way, if you want some Blue Delta jeans, go to bluedeltajeans.com. Got them on right now. Not sure how far I can move here, but you'll see them tonight on Read and React. We always wear the Blue Deltas. BlueDeltaJeans.com, custom fit for you. They can do it digitally. They'll get you fit digitally now, and you can do it that way. How about that? It's beautiful. Gift cards, if that's what you want, get them going like that. Christmas coming up, Blue Delta jeans for Christmas. Why not? Get that rolling. They are the most comfortable, breathable, stretchy, perfect fit pair of jeans that I have, and I don't want another pair of jeans ever. BlueDeltaJeans.com. Tell me you heard them right here on Cube Show. A lot to learn about this Kentucky team in this game. Obviously, Brock Vandagriff, the main piece, wanted to see how he would be. Bush Hamden's offense, wanted to see what that would look like. By the way, Bush Hamden, how cool of a story is this? So he grows up in Kuwait, and late 90s when Iraq invades Kuwait, he and his family are on vacation in San Diego, and their house gets destroyed like due to some of the bombings, and they just stay. And his brother actually played quarterback in Indiana, played in the NFL for a little bit, has a clothing line now. And Bush goes to Boise to become a quarterback. And all of a sudden, like, he's ready to start. He hurts his finger in practice, so he's the backup. Then Kellen Moore takes over, and you weren't getting it back from Kellen Moore. But apparently, during that last year, people in that program said Bush was the leader, Kellen was the starter. And I got to visit with Bush a little bit. It's the first time I've talked to him. I was blown away. Like, I see, it took about three answers to questions, and I was like, yeah, I see why they wanted him. I see why people like playing for this dude now. And I love his offense too. Like, his offense is super cool. But you saw the motions, you saw the movement. There was a little operational error early. Had to call the quick timeout. The helmet comes, getting the play in, changing some things. I know there was one play that Brock Vandagriff checked to the field, and the ball's in the middle of the field, which for those of you that might not understand all that, field is wide side of the field. So if the ball's in the middle of the field, there's no field. That can't happen. But those are things, I mean, it's first game. Like, some of those things are going to happen. You know, you're not worried about that. I thought Eli Cox played well. Marcus Cox on that offensive line played well. Jordan Dingle. I'm telling you, the tight end group for Kentucky is going to be big this year. Josh Caddis didn't go, and he's your grinder. Like, he's your ass kicker at tight end. He wasn't even out there. Dingle's out there making some plays, catching the ball and blocking. The right side of the offensive line, got to bring it a little bit more. Still got to come on. Got to figure that part out. But Sumo Kumbari at running back is dynamic, man. Like, he runs with power. They moved him to slot last year, so you know he can go. He's got some juice. But I am concerned about running back depth. With Chip training him out for a while, I just are you going to be able to lean on that position? Vandagriff got to protect himself. He was amped up. I'm sure he's ready to just run over somebody or run through a wall, whatever. But I thought he showed pretty good poise, more arm strength than maybe we thought. Because I had a few people tell me that, like, it's not this big, like, massive rocket arm. That's not what you're getting with him. But operated the offense fairly well. The offensive line was pretty good. The receivers, and here's the thing about this receiving core that you need to know for Kentucky. These transfers have come in and sort of changed things. So they lead the nation in drops last year, and some of the super talented kids aren't necessarily getting it done the way that they need to. And you go and you get Fred Ferrier from UAB and Jamori Macklin from Missouri. We had a couple of guys telling us that, like, Jamori Macklin will send texts to the younger receivers at like 11:30 or 12:30 at night of their practice film, critiquing them, trying to help them get better. So Vandagriff's telling us this. Vandagriff's like, this dude's costing himself sleep watching practice film of other guys, taking the time to text them because of where he's been and how long he's been doing it to try to help them get better. So I called Trent Dilfer at UAB, and I'm like, tell me about this Fred Ferrier kid. Got a lot of juice, wanted to build the offense around him, had a little bit of an issue with drops, so he kind of had to go a different way. Didn't get the touches he probably deserved. He decided to move on. But good kid, works his rear end off, a lot of talent. And he's like, who else they got? And I mentioned Jamori Macklin. And Trent Dilfer says, we studied the top 20 receivers in the portal, and Jamori Macklin, we had him graded in the top 3. He said, this kid, when we played against him at North Texas, he made one of our corners quit. I shit you not. Trent Dilfer's telling me this. He said, we had a corner come over and ask to come out of the game because he didn't want to cover him anymore. That's what Jamori Macklin did. He said he's got legit speed. He's physical, great hands, understands how to get separation, understands angles and leverage. He said, we wanted him. We wanted him bad. And he said he made one of our DBs quit. Now, I can say that because that DB is not on UAB's football team anymore, so don't think that he is. But that's the kind of guy you're getting with Jamori Macklin. So you got Macklin, Dane Key, Bane Brown, Farrier coming in from UAB, ton of weapons. So I think you'll probably use those and move them around just a little bit more. And you saw the run game get going. I thought they were a little gap scheme heavy early on. I don't really know why. I feel like I've said that about 3 or 4 teams tonight. But when they got some zone stuff going and they'll do more of it, like I'm not sure we saw a stretch play. But also consider this. Like think about it from this perspective too. You had Tate Rodemaker at quarterback for Southern Miss. You've got a legit track guy out wide who's returning kicks and playing receiver. You have 2 or 3 transfer Power 5 offensive linemen, 2 or 3 transfer Power 5 D linemen, 2 transfer linebackers, and a couple of transfers in the secondary that have all played in the SEC or the ACC or other Power 5 football. And you handled your business like that. Also, you had a 2-hour and 10-minute delay to warm up, and then the warm up got delayed again. Then you played 2 quarters of football. You take a 10-minute halftime, don't even go to the locker room, and come back out, play like 3 series and get delayed again. But you kept your focus. You stayed dialed in, and you went and made things happen. Now, was there a ball that could have been picked and gone the other way? Yes, there was. Was there a ball that was dropped that could have been a pretty big game for Southern Miss? Yes, there was. But either way, it's 31-0. You handled everything the way that you should have with all those distractions and all those reasons not to be focused. I give Kentucky a lot of credit for that. And I give Big Blue Nation a lot of credit. They stuck around. That crowd was hyped before that game began. In 2 hours plus, they had to wait around for that game. And they stuck it out for a long time. I mean, hell, it was after midnight when they ended up canceling it. And which, I mean, listen, Southern Miss had to be on their plane by 3:45 a.m. to get home. They didn't have hotel rooms. It was already 12:30. You're running the risk of not getting home if you play more. It's 31-0. There was another cell coming in that had even more lighting that had already been there. So even if you played another 10, 15 minutes, you were going to get hit again. It was going to be done for good. So I thought it was the right call. Plus, when you're asking guys to start, stop, mentally you check out at some point. Like you're done. And that becomes dangerous when that happens. If you're not dialed in and you're not focused, that's where guys get hurt. So I feel like they had to do it. Defensively, Brad White's got some vets, man. Roman doesn't like the way that they're playing Dumas Johnson, but boy, is he physical. He's just bigger and thicker than I remembered. Him and Derek Jackson will be really good next to each other. I like the new role for Alex Safari down closer to the football. So he'll play more of that Sam linebacker position where he was more nickel last year. You saw some disruption up front. And I'll try to tell you guys this. Kentucky has numbers on the defensive line. So Rebicka made some plays. Keyshawn Silver made some plays. Of course, Deion Walker makes plays. Like he's big time. They want him in big games, though. J.J. Weaver made some plays. You saw Khalil Saunders make some plays. Like they have numbers up front. And that's going to be valuable moving forward. And then you got all these vets on the back end. Zion Childress, Jordan Lovett, Christian Story coming in from Bama. Maxwell Harrison obviously he's grown up a lot apparently and like making big strides with how he's handling himself in the facility, around the facility, more special teams, sitting in the front row of meetings. Like I'm proud of Maxwell for what he's been doing. It's cool to hear that about him and how far he's come over a little bit of adversity early in his career. So it's an older defense. It has a chance to be pretty good. I think they need to be disciplined. And then offensively, just take care of the football, manage it, run it, get the ball in the hands of your playmakers, and we'll see where this team can go. I think Stoops likes his team. I think he had a lot of questions about what's this going to look like, what's this going to be. And because the game was cut short, you didn't get all those answers. But it's a team that I think has a chance to do some good things this year, especially after being there and talking to everybody. Also, don't forget about the Better Business Bureau of Alabama. Go to bbb.org and you type in your zip code. If you're in Central or South Alabama, they're going to help you build your business. They're going to help you get more customers. They're going to help you get more traffic either on foot or via the web. If you need web design, they can help you design a web page. What about digital billboards? Better Business Bureau of Alabama can help you that as well. They want to get your business going. They want to help you make more money. There's over 4,000 accredited businesses that are getting assistance right now from the Better Business Bureau of Central and South Alabama, offices in Birmingham and Mobile. Just go check them out today and see what they can do for you. bbb.org, and then type in your zip code and just see how they can help you. Find them on social media. They can help you with your social media as well. They want to get more people to your business, be it online or in person. Go see what they can do for you. bbb.org, put your zip code in, see how they can help today. Finally, LSU and Southern Cal. Disappointing because I thought LSU did a lot of things well enough to win this game. And the defense looked a smidge better. Still, there were obvious pass rush situations where Harold Perkins was not the line of scrimmage, but I just think sometimes that's what it's going to be. I probably should not expect that to be all the time. Miller Moss played great football. I'm going to give him credit. Some of those receivers made insane catches. I'm going to give them credit for that. USC on both lines of scrimmage is more physical than I anticipated. I will give them credit for that. However, you had this game in hand, and you entered this game with potentially the best offensive line in college football, and you did not allow them the opportunity to steal that game from USC. You did not allow them the opportunity to go in there and take their ball and go home and call game. And that's what could have happened, in my opinion. But you didn't allow that to have the potential to take place. John Emery Jr. is running his rear end off. Kyron Lacey is a freaking alien. Mason Taylor made some plays. Like, you got good performances from a lot of individuals. You failed in the 2-minute game, both offense and defense. I don't think if they can mentally bounce back, LSU can still have a great year, because the foundation of some of the things that you need to be a good football team are there. The discipline's got to improve. And that's one thing that I've heard a lot of people say, oh, you just got to get rid of stupid penalties. Do you get rid of that quickly, though? Like, I'm not sure that just goes away. I almost kind of feel like that's in your makeup. Like, if you're going to act like a moron, you're probably not one day just going to stop acting like a moron. I mean, none of us grew up overnight. So can that really change? Can they really get a grip on that and move forward and be a good football team? I don't know the answer. You don't know the answer. But I know Will Campbell played good football. I know John Emery played some good football. I know the defensive line was a little more disruptive than I expected. The numbers are still super low there, so they're probably going to get worn out, which is probably why you didn't get a ton in 2 minutes. I thought you lacked individual pass rush. Savion Jones had a couple wins, but again, that's why I thought we would definitely see Perkins in obvious pass rush situations lined up off the edge, and we just kind of didn't get that. So it's a tough loss. It's I don't want to say it's an ugly loss. I just think it's one that was a little bit mismanaged. But they showed some things that you should be excited about. Like, Nuss was throwing darts early in that game. Like, he had full command of the offense. And maybe that's why you weren't able to get to some of those things that I just talked about. Maybe it was our quarterback's playing out of his mind. We got a receiver that's catching everything inside this stadium. Why would we get away from that? Remember, Denbrock told me that last year. But I'm like, man, this Logan Diggs kid can get downhill and just offensive line can get a push. And he's like, I should probably do that more. But then I realized I got this quarterback that's running them past people. I got all these receivers that catch everything and run over people and jump up and catch with one hand. Why would I not use that? So maybe it's harder than we think sometimes when your quarterback is ta-ta-ta-ta-ta and your receiver is woo, 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 everything. And to just say, hey, just run the ball. I mean, we saw Elko yelling it, right? Sometimes just run the effing ball. Like my buddy Ben Leard always told me, football ain't hard. But it sure is fun to talk about. And I'm glad you guys stuck with me tonight. And I'm sorry this is getting out a little bit late. I'll probably go ahead and warn you to get used to that, because 16 more games next week, 15 next week, all on Saturday. So to be able to watch all those on Sunday and get this out it's going to be a task that I'm willing to attempt, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull off with travel from Norman to Charlotte and to get ready for Monday night show with Roman as well. But I appreciate all your feedback. Please hit me up in the comments if you want me to try to go a different direction with what I'm watching for and what I'm seeing and what we're talking about. I know that was a little quick on a lot of the teams, but that was a lot of games to get to. So I wanted to make sure I got some decent content in for everyone. And I will not lie to you, it took me a long time to get through all these games, but I want to do it, and I'm going to do it, and I love doing it, and I'm going to present it to you each and every week. Tell your friends about it. Subscribe, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, trying to build it, get up there. I'll be on with Josh every Thursday night. Catch me there, and catch me on with McElroy and Cubic in the morning, Monday through Friday. You can watch that show on YouTube now too. Go to Jocks945, and you can watch me and Greg in studio Monday through Friday. Appreciate you guys hanging, and we will be back next week.